And hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Crow. I'm Director of Community here at NinjaOne. And for this webinar, I already messed up my name. I had a whole funny joke. Anyway, I'll give it to you anyway. I am Jonathan Crow-Stradamus, and I have with me my good friend, Peter Zoltar the Magnificent Breton. And we're going to be talking about IT trends and predictions for 2024. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to join us. Really happy to see you here and happy to be digging into some of the big things that we see coming this year, now that we're a few weeks into 2024. Happy New Year to everyone, if I can still say that. A couple of things before we get into it. Yes, as always, this webinar is being recorded, and you'll get an email follow-up that'll have links to a few of the resources that we're going to cite, as well as the recording. Please, you're already jumping in the chat. So cool to see. And yes, Nick Zoltar is from the movie Big. Man, I love Zoltar. Please dig into the chat. We're here to learn from you and to hear from you just as much as you're here to maybe learn some things from us. And with that, I want to take it over, heading over to you, Pete. Peter Breton is our Senior Director of Customer Marketing, Product Marketing. I mean, I think pretty much like a few other things that maybe aren't in that official title. But Pete, always cool to hang with you. And
yeah, thanks so much, Jonathan. I think Zoltar and Crow-Stradamus are the next, spaghetti and peanut butter, or Bert and Big Bird, whatever it may be. I think that's us. It's been a while since it's actually just been you and I on a webinar, so that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to talking about our trends and predictions for 2024. So I'll just go ahead and hop right in. Late last year, we did a survey of around 625 IT leaders, US, UK, Germany, and France. I think we had people from a couple other countries as well, across industries, across employee sizes, many Ninja customers, many not Ninja customers, with the purpose of understanding IT leaders more, and in particular, the challenges and opportunities that they face. And so a lot of the data presented in this webinar is based on this survey, although a lot of the insights, hopefully, yes, come from that survey, but also from our spending time with our customers, with people who are not our customers, but also in the IT space. Hopefully, we've learned as much from you individually as we're just pulling from the data. But yeah, any of the data in here is from that survey. We do have a resource for that survey. If you click the resources tab, you can see that you can download a deeper dive into the data here. Although I think we'll call out some of the most interesting things here on the webinar. So with that, we do want this to be as interactive and engaging as possible. So we're not going to let you off easy. We are going to pull some data from you guys as well. And I want to start our first one off here with a poll. How will your total investment in security change in 2024? We've got a couple questions here for you, or a couple possible answers here for you. We'd love to see if what you all say aligns with what our survey data says.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we have to start with security. Probably not a surprise to anyone. I've been here at Ninja for 5 years. Pete, you're sneaking up on that mark too. And prior to that, I was at an endpoint security startup for about 4. And security. It's been the big topic for so long now. I don't see that being a change in 2024, but this is cool. So we basically want to know, where are your priorities headed? Is it more around investing in the talent that you currently have? Is it getting new talent? Are you focusing on people and processes, things like that? Or are you focused on technology and improving things on that front? So we're seeing the answers come in, and thank you all for doing that. Again, you should see the poll option and maybe hidden under more, I'm not sure. But thank you for those who are chiming in here. And it looks like, Pete, we'll share the results once we conclude this poll in just a second here. I want to give folks a little bit more time to answer. But it looks like
some pretty clear standouts here, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it looks like leading the pack by a pretty wide margin is we're investing in new security tools but not hiring any additional security talent. So that's something we're going to dig into a little bit more. But before we get into all these answers, let's give folks just a few more seconds here. And let me also comment on this. Michael, I am jealous. I am calling in from Maine, just about an hour north of Pete. And you're calling in from Tulum, Mexico.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that. We've got what, 4 to 6 inches of snow on the ground here. I don't know what you've got up there, Jonathan.
Yeah, something around there too. The Canadians are, yeah, there we go. That makes me feel better. All right. So yeah, thank you, Andrew, for closing that up. And let's take a look at these results. Pete, what jumps out at you?
So, I think it's actually, as you said, investing in new security tools, but not hiring as number one, 55% is really interesting. But I actually think the fact that number two is upskilling is more interesting, that those are the number one and two, right? We're not hiring more people. We're investing in more tools. We can't hire more people, but we are investing in the people that we have and making them more security focused, upskilling them in the security space. I think that's a really interesting juxtaposition there. It makes sense, right? It's hard to hire the right people. They're expensive, and there aren't a lot available in every market. So I think it's really interesting to see those two together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to get into a little bit more depth there. But yeah, let's you want to look and see how this compares to what the previous survey said?
Yeah, absolutely. So our trend number one, as you may have guessed, is a focus on security here. And in almost every question, there were 30 questions in the survey that we sent out, and almost all of them had something security related in them that people could respond to. And there are 3 that really popped out to me, highlighting the importance of security going forward. Not that that's a new trend. I don't think we're blowing any minds here to say that security is important. But the number 2 most important business challenge that businesses are looking to solve. So this isn't the technology challenge. This isn't the IT challenge. This is the business challenge that we need technology to solve. The second most important was maintaining a secure security posture. 30%. So none of these add up to 100 because you can choose multiple options. But the number 2 was making sure that we maintain a strong security posture. In addition, when you look at where people are investing, 50%, the number 1 most important was strengthening enterprise security. So people know it's a challenge. There are more important challenges. We'll come back to that. But people are over-investing, at least in comparison to how they see it from a challenge perspective, to make sure that we're getting security right. And then third, we asked the question, what metrics do you use to gauge success of new IT technology investments? IT technology, maybe not the best wording there, but investments. It wasn't just security. We were asking all of your technology investments, from infrastructure to end users to automation, whatever it may be. And 53% said that security, the impact on security, even if it's not a security tool, is critical to whether or not a technology is successful. And there are probably 5 to 7 other stats I could have pulled out here, but the biggest and clearest trend that we saw in this 30-question survey of 600 and something people was security is important. We're investing in it, and it is fundamental to how we deliver value in IT. And so while we don't think the focus on security will increase, we do see investments increasing, and we do see that it continues to be a critical part of how we evaluate the value IT is providing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a key to budget for so long. And it's interesting to see, the juxtaposition between security, where it's kind of like, it's a cost. You are providing value in that way, you're reducing risk, but juxtaposing that against some investments in providing other kinds of value that we're going to get into in a second. So drilling down into the security topic a little bit deeper, a little bit more tactical. I saw some comments here that Joe, you mentioned, like, okay, you didn't give an option for outsourcing in terms of that poll that we launched. And that brings up a good point. And I think it's tied to this point of like, okay, so if we look at our poll results for the audience, We've got investing in new security tools, not hiring any new folks, but focusing on some training and upskilling for existing employees. Bringing on that new technology, I want to know what area of technology that is, because if you're bringing on new technology, does your current staff have the knowledge and the expertise to be able to actually utilize those tools? I mean, that's been the big thing for a long time with discussion around EDR, but also other tooling as well. Is these tools are great and they're powerful, but without additional training or potentially outsourcing, can you actually get the full use out of those things? Absolutely does. I mean, they go together. So let's drill down, Pete, if you don't mind going to the next slide here. And I think this is an interesting way to think about security investment.
One quick comment I'd love to call out there on the EDR conversation is one of the things that I've seen working closer with the sales team, I think, than you do on an everyday basis, is how much interest there's been in MDR. So since we adopted the ability to sell Bitdefender's MDR and SentinelOne's MDR, we've seen that take off pretty dramatically. I think for that reason, right? Yeah. EDR is a time-intensive solution, and being able to outsource that has been pretty critical. So yeah, I'll jump to the next slide here.
Okay, cool. Because I mean, this really gets to the point of what is, people intensive in terms of the types of technology. So this is the cyber defense matrix. A lot of folks on here have probably seen this before. If you are a regular attendee of the cyber call that Andrew Morgan puts on, Sunil Yu has been on that, and they've looked at the cyber defense matrix for a while. It's a cool framework to look at where exactly investments in not just technology, this is why I like this graph, not just technology, but people and process, where those apply in terms of looking at security from this classic identify, protect, detect, respond, recover framework. I think we can simplify this a little bit for the purpose of this conversation and really just think of the classic kind of left of boom and right of boom conversation, looking at identify and protect as prevention, let's just say. I know there's some nuances here that I'm not covering. And then detection and response and recovery being another category. And looking at this, I mean, what I think this graphic really, the point it makes very quickly and effectively is looking at going back to like AV and a lot of the preventative actions. A lot of that has been evolving into technology focused. We're relying on tools to do these things and to automate these things, patching. This goes into, I think veers into a lot of like asset inventory, endpoint hardening, a lot of attack surface reduction, that sort of thing. And then once you get into detection response, traditionally those have involved more requiring more skilled personnel, people who can actually go into an EDR tool and be able to drill down, do some investigation. Now we've seen over the past few years with technology that driven by, in large part, the EDR providers, they're bringing some capabilities using technology down from enterprise and from that higher level of expertise down to some smaller shops and really trying to democratize some of those skills, right? But we're still seeing, in a lot of cases, you really need expertise. And so it doesn't surprise me to hear your comment about the MDR stat. We're still seeing a lot of outsourcing specifically. There's upskilling that can happen, but there's also that prevalence to outsource to security experts who can handle not so much the stuff on the prevention side, but primarily on this detection and response side. And then when you get into like when there actually is an intrusion or an incident, cyber insurance plays a big role with this too, right? They often will have approved providers, incident response providers that you need to use. And in those cases, it's not really a matter of upskilling your own team unless you're a large enterprise and you've got kind of an approved team who's capable of doing that type of work, but you're working with outsource. So this was Yeah.
Randy's got a great comment here that's worth calling out too. So beyond the rise in exposure and attacks, audits and cyber insurance are also driving security requirements. It's not just being more secure. There are external pressures, particularly insurance, that are driving changes in requirements, more strict requirements. And this is a great call out. Doing more with less increasingly is critical in security. So thanks for that comment, Randy. I think it's incredibly appropriate for what we're talking about right now.
100%. Andrew is our marketing colleague in the background here. Andrew, would you mind, the man behind the curtain here, dropping this poll that we have up and putting in the security in-depth poll? And this will get a little bit, thank you very much, the security deeper dive, thank you. So we're asking here, what areas of security investment are you prioritizing? You can check all that apply. This is multiple choice. So this kind of gets into like a more, a little bit deeper than the last question. I'm curious about, are you focusing on the prevention side? And if so, is that technology focused or people or outsourcing? Or focusing more on the detection and response side? And again, same thing, is it using technology or is it primarily outsourcing? And I'm just interested to see what people say on this one. And looking at responses, this is so cool to see them live. I wish we could share the live like fluctuation with you guys, but we'll share the results in just a second here. Probably no surprise, like going back to the previous poll too, it's technology really. So I'm curious if anyone in the chat here, let's go another level deeper. If we're talking about investing in technology, and right now it looks pretty split between technology that enables prevention, that identify and protect side, and the technology that enables more of the detection and response side. Look at, they're about the same across the board. I'm interested if anyone's comfortable sharing like some specific tools they're looking at investing in. And again, that same question, investing in these new tools, is there a plan to maybe tack on that managed component of it, you know, outsourcing the actual management and usage of it?
While people are responding to that, I think it's cool to point out too that it seems there's a slight lead on the in-house prevention over detection and response, which I think is an interesting call. It's small, but it's kind of stuck that way throughout the poll.
All right, cool. Well, thank you everybody for applying. Let's Andrew, let's share these results so people can react to those. And thank you, folks. We see some Threat Locker, Arctic Wolf. So that goes to the MDR side of things too, right? Rocket Cyber, MDR, a lot of MDR. Looking to leverage security expertise, right? Outside security expertise. Makes a lot of sense. And this is going to get into our next slide. If you don't mind going over, Pete. Let's get to a prediction. We're 18 minutes in here. We got to speed things up. And this will be, I think, one of the biggest. We'll go a little bit faster in some of these other categories. Okay, predictions. We promised trends. We're going to give you some predictions too. And because it's 2024, we got to do it. We got to talk about AI. And AI and security, I think, is especially interesting. You know, we're talking about technology and AI. Man, there's so much hype, obviously. And I think it's kind of seen as, oh, this has the potential to be, you know, the next silver bullet, the next magic solution for things. But for fun, I decided let's do a little man versus machine, little human versus machine here. Let's give a prediction that we came up with as a team. And let's compare that. Let's ask ChatGPT for a prediction. Let's use AI. And I have to say here, ChatGPT, have some shame. Like you're just self-promoting yourself all over the place here. So no surprise, ChatGPT, or in this case, prediction bot GPT 3000, whatever, is basically predicting for the next year, there's going to be an increased AI, focus on AI for defense and offense. You know, we see the hype all the time about like, okay, attackers are going to be using AI driven attacks too. The skeptic in me says, of course, we're going to hear a lot of that, especially promoted by security vendors who are promoting their own technology, right? And how you increasingly need to get advanced stuff. I think I'm not completely dismissing that at all, but I think our prediction, and I'm interested to see, like, in the audience here, who do you think is more accurate? Or we can also come back next year and see who actually got a little bit closer. But I'm actually thinking that we're going to see a continuation of additional like detection response capability driven downstream thanks to advances in EDR. But I think the biggest impact, AI impact, can actually be more on the prevention side. And that this is the big thing that for a lot of like the vast majority of companies out there, the SMBs that definitely in terms of just strict numbers way outpace the large enterprises out there. The majority of folks are SMBs, and their security challenges have stayed more or less the same. And additional technology has not saved the things that really they could be making the most traction on, which is getting the basics right. And I think that is where there's some real exciting stuff that could be coming this way in terms of AI helping with, and that's around the identify and protect side, things like access control, endpoint hardening, configurations, eventually, helping to do more of the secure by default settings here. I think Microsoft making some changes has done more than a lot of this other new technology in terms of just reducing security pain for SMBs in the past couple of years than others. That's my hot take anyway.
If I was going to jump in there just for a second,
please do.
To be the pessimist here, there's also the using AI injudiciously for these activities. And I guarantee we'll see situations in which someone uses AI to do something like, stop Windows from updating to Windows 11 that kills patching on the endpoint and then leaves their endpoint open for attack, right? So people using AI when they don't understand it, don't understand the impact it could have, and actually causing problems. That's my prediction.
Yeah. So just to clarify there, you're saying basically like inadvertent consequences of using AI.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that we're part of the hype train. I feel like we're going to go through a cycle where we see some big advances, but we're also going to see like a little bit of maybe some like pushback in some areas, including Blake, your comment about AI ticketing RMM coming for our jobs. I don't think that's going to actually happen anytime soon. That's I tend to take these things with a grain of salt. Okay.
I think from a timing perspective, we should move on to the next one here. Our next trend is around automation, which is another major theme that came up in our survey here. So I'd love to launch that next poll. I'd really like to understand how mature you see your IT team's automation strategy is today. Hopefully these are granular and different enough that we can get a clear answer here. I was hoping we'd just see everyone, full mature, we're done, we've got it down from an automation perspective, but I don't think that's what we're going to see here.
It's kind of interesting to me is like the difference between when we talk about everything is AI focused now, we're just on that hype train. There's so much focus there. And then we have automation. And I mean, there's definitely the Venn diagram here where we're talking about some of the same thing when you zoom out enough. But for me, I'm curious if you think this or if people in the audience feel this way. Automation, the way we're talking about it here, how much is your IT team's automation strategy? It feels more like this is something that IT teams have been more proactive and intentional about versus AI feels like it's so new. It almost feels like something that's happening to us, like it's kind of like more out of control and more less planned.
Yeah, it's sort of adopted or fail. But I will say, Jonathan, our poll, I think, goes opposite of what you're saying. And I'm not surprised here. Our survey data backs this up. The most popular answer by far at almost 50% is we are implementing automation in an ad hoc fashion.
Yeah, Andrew, actually, sorry, Pete, let's share those results with the audience. Thank you.
Awesome. That doesn't surprise me, right? There's always more to automate. And there's people saying things like, we automate as much as we possibly can. there's an argument to be made that an automation, you're never done with automation. There's always more to add, more to improve, et cetera. There is this juxtaposition of like automation strategy versus taking an ad hoc approach to automation from a maturity perspective as well. I'm actually really surprised to see 15% at the bottom saying they're not automating or just doing minimal automation as well. Obviously, lots of areas where we can get some big results there by investing in automation. So this does align with data I'll show you in a couple of minutes, but I think we can just go ahead and jump into that unless you've got anything to add there, Jonathan.
No, I think the only thing I'd add is like, probably depends on how we define automation too, right? Like some people may be doing some things that others may consider automation that for whatever reasons they don't.
I'm in marketing. I get to use broad terms and make made up statements about them. That's how it works. All right. That's a good call out, Jonathan. All right. So what does the survey say? So similar questions that we called out for the automation spotlight here. The number one challenge that businesses were looking to solve, the business challenge, again, not just the IT challenge, was improving efficiency through automation. We all know that we keep being asked to do more with less, that there's, AI coming to take our jobs, et cetera. And we need to be more efficient across the board, end users, the IT team, security, whoever it is, through automation. So 46% said this, put it firmly in number one. If you remember, I think security was like 30%, and number two, automation and efficiency were by far the biggest challenge that needed to be solved. But interestingly enough, and this aligns with the poll we just did, it's only number two and much lower from an investment perspective for IT investments over the next 18 months. So it was like 52% for security and 30% for automation. So they've switched in terms of both priority and investment, which I think is really interesting because people recognize how critical it is, and yet they don't have the time to go and invest in it. They don't have the resources to go and make sure that they're maturing their security strategy, their automation strategy. And then last, just to reinforce the first point here, 62% across all IP investments, 62% measure automation ability as, so efficiency gains through automation as the number one metric for success with a technology, with an investment. Anything you'd add here, Jonathan?
I think a couple of things. So we have a question, or not a question, sorry, a comment, a really good one from, let's see, from Ari and Daniel. Daniel was like, yeah, that's a great idea, Ari. Ari was asking for, he's saying, I wish there was a top automations list. There's actually one, Pete, that you wrote a little while ago. We should go back and update that too. But we certainly have some things that can point you in good directions. I would say for the folks who are either not automating or kind of doing it very minimally, there's some cool stuff, especially, I mean, if you're a Ninja customer, but really regardless, whatever tool that you're using, there's certainly some low-hanging fruit that you can be a little bit more intentional about. That's not super time consuming, that you can get set up. And we certainly have some resources that can help you do that. So like I mentioned in the chat here, we'll be sure in the follow-up email to link out to a couple of things to get you started.
One recommendation, and it sounds so trite, but it's worth sharing, is go have someone dig into your ticketing data for the last 6 months and take the top 20 recurring issues and see if you can automate them. I realize that's trite and unspecific in terms of what you'll actually be automating, but everyone I've talked to as a mature security strategy, that's a great place to start to find that low-hanging fruit. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and that sort of thing too, that going back to kind of like the basics, again, we feel like it's a shame we always feel like we have to apologize for this, but I mean, these are really the big impact things that people can do on the security side, on the automation side. Certainly for a lot of folks, it may be more impactful than chasing the latest, AI fad. Again, not to say like AI is absolutely a huge tool and it's making crazy waves, and we're all going to get swept up in it, and we should. I think there's a lot to capitalize on, but the basics are good places to start. There's a lot of value there.
I want to share this, which I think aligns pretty well with the survey results we just got. this is out of the 625 survey responses. This is what we got from a maturity curve essentially for our respondents. So dark blue, manual or legacy process, that aligns pretty well with like we're not automating or automating minimally. Still formulating strategies, that bright orange. That light blue is implementing. I think most of our people are there as well. And then a small portion at the top, a little bit higher. Complete is a terrible name for this, but our maturity strategy is complete, but it's mature and it's implemented, and we're iterating and improving over time. If you look at these, we actually looked at, I think, 10 or 15 different kind of IT processes, and automation was the least mature across all 600. And if you looked at 5,000 employee companies versus 200 employee companies, it was pretty resilient that automation was the least mature of all the IT processes. And I think it goes back to, you can't really be complete from an automation perspective, but there's still a lot of low hanging fruit out there, just to reinforce that point.
Yeah. And in terms of, I love this question too. And we've actually got something, like, okay, what does mature mean? Right. So if we go to the next slide, we have just a little screenshot of the cover there. But if you go to resources, there's the Omdia report where you can get the stats that we're citing here. But you also should see under documents, there's the PDF that links directly to this guide. And it basically breaks down automation maturity in 5 different stages and gives you some high level, but also pretty tactical examples. So you can kind of see where you're at, and it'll also, even more importantly, give you some ideas in terms of some things that you can do to raise your maturity. So when it comes to like, how do we even determine that and what can we actually do? I think this is a really cool resource that can help. One thing before we move on to, I just want to call out this comment from Randy. This is a really good one. In-house staff can be defensive with automation. Change is difficult to swallow, but so required for small IT teams to properly manage their environments. 100%. And I think that this really ties into AI too. I mean, any kind of like new technology before, I think it's all about finding ways to get people to dip a toe in and try things out in a way that shows them it can empower them. Until that happens, absolutely, we're going to see this defensively. I mean, Pete and I are marketers, and I mean, the AI is coming for your job is not limited or not restricted to just IT and technical work. I mean, absolutely, it's in terms of writing and lots of marketing work too. But once you start using these tools, I mean, Pete, you and I were just talking about it before the call.
I use ChatGPT or Bard almost every day to validate ideas, to kick off research, etc. It's a huge time saver, and it helps provide peace of mind, in some ways. One comment I did want to make on Randy's comment, I interviewed 20 or 30 of our sort of more mature customers from an automation perspective. And there were 2 recommendations that came out. We did a webinar on this called Building a Culture of Automation. And 2 recommendations that really stood out to me were, 1, if you can find someone who is interested and invested and to carve out some time for them, kind of appoint them as an evangelist for automation or for AI, and then give them some room to run, you're going to see results. Those people want to invest. They're the top of the curve in terms of like innovation adoption. They're the people who are really interested and invested. But then second, if once a month you sit down and you look at, again, like your most common tickets and find the things you can automate, and then work with the team to build them out. So you're building automation into your team calls, your weekly stand-ups, whatever it may be. You're going to start building this culture of automation. And then you can also, on top of that, I'm going to use the word spiff, but spiff your employees to build automations, right? So, hey, whoever builds the automation that saves the most time this month gets, a $50 gift card, whatever it is. It'll just become part of their work, and they'll be looking for these opportunities. Obviously, not every recommendation I'm going to make is going to work in every environment, but just start including it in your conversations and in your stand-ups and incentivizing it, even in tiny ways, you'll start seeing results.
That's a great point, Pete. And I'm glad you called out those previous webinar, those discussions. A lot of our product managers at Ninja, we're IT people, working at MSPs or in IT departments. And it's been really cool to see them come in, provide their really great perspectives and experience into the product development. But in addition to that, taking time to share their learnings in terms of building out teams, managing automation, and sharing that with the community too. Patrick brings up another good point, and then we'll move on because we got some other stuff to share here. But IT teams, they do so much. It's hard to get out of the day-to-day, right? I feel like this is true for not just IT as well, but it can be especially true for IT. When you're putting out fires all day long, how do you find the time to step back and be more strategic, be more intentional about things? And I think it comes down to probably management and leadership in a lot of ways. Making sure that there are those times, just being more intentional about it. If you don't carve out the time and put blockers in, it's going to keep getting pushed out. But like Pete's saying, I mean, finding those ways to identify, okay, we're going to take some time out here, but it's going to save us in the long run. This is so easier said than done. But identifying, here are the big time sucks in terms of our tickets. Let's devote, we can put the numbers here. We see how much time these are taking. That warrants us spending X amount of time to automate or to lower that number.
Awesome. Let's move on to the next one. The next one, I was actually really surprised that our survey came up that this was such a high priority for IT teams, but let's hear what you guys think. So our next is really the focusing on the end user, right? So how do we, can we launch this poll here, Andrew, please? But how do we ensure that end users have tools to take lift off of our IT team? So there are a couple software categories here, like end user self-service and digital employee experience. Those are just names, right? The idea is, are you benefiting from and investing in tools that take effort off your team and push it back on the end user so they can help themselves? Well, there's an interesting outcome. We've got a pretty clear winner already here, I think. But I don't want to scare anyone off. So let's wait a minute.
Oh man, lots to say about this one.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve Ricks. We had Tim Miller recommend an awesome book called The Phoenix Project, which is pretty, like, it's been out for a while. It's pretty well known in IT circles, and it's great. It's a work of fiction, but it's written by some folks who actually have I believe like CIO experience, and it kind of follows along a lot of what IT leaders have to deal with. It's great, and I'm currently reading it now, but one of the characters is a Steve, and Tim said, "Don't be a Steve," and then Steve Ricks got offended by that. Okay, let's. I think that's a good time for the poll. Andrew, let's close that one down and share it. Thank you.
Oop. Sorry, I stopped sharing there. So this doesn't really surprise me. There is an overwhelming number who have not invested in self-service or digital employee experience, and even among those who have, a little more, or about half, it looks like, are getting minimal to no benefit from it because of user adoption. So what we have found is, or what we've heard over and over again, is shift left, and maybe even shift left onto the end user, right? That's where you'll get your time back. And yet,
sorry, Pete, can you explain what that is a little bit?
Oh yeah, so shifting left. So, if you go all the way to the right, we're talking, your CIO, CISO, hands-on fixing a problem, right? That's really expensive. In the real world, your level 3 techs, you're paying them more. There's opportunity cost. When they have to get their hands on a problem, it's really expensive to your business, both in terms of actual cost and also opportunity cost. And so any opportunity we have to shift to your level 2 techs, your level 1 techs, your help desk staff, or even to automation, that will save your team money, particularly in the long run. Automation is, it may be expensive to set it up once, but if it triggers 100 times, you're saving money. Going even further left is, okay, let's make the end user solve that themselves because they can do it really quick and easy. And that's the promised land, right? Like, let's get them to log into their end user self-service portal and install their applications themselves and fill out their own tickets and, order their own, hardware, whatever it may be. But what we're seeing here is generally what I've heard over and over again is that even when we invest, it's a struggle to really get the return that we expect from investment in end users. Yeah. And there's a reason, people are bitter. People in IT are bitter about end users because they don't do what they're supposed to, and they don't listen, and they're not enabled. And that said, I do want to highlight some of the data from our survey, which kind of goes against this, although I think some of it's wishful thinking. So in terms of those top business challenges they're looking to solve, the number 3 was, how do we maximize end user productivity? And a lot of that won't be self-service, right? But it will be creating IT processes and delivering IT services that make sure that the end user is as productive and satisfied as possible. Similarly, the number 3 for investment priorities is improving employee productivity and experience, right? So again, making sure that the end user isn't frustrated with their tool set, that they have a new device when they get onboarded, that they have the software that they need, et cetera. But then really, really interesting to me is that almost 60% of people, when they look at success of new technology investments, looked at end user productivity and satisfaction. So even though it's not the top priority, it's up there, and it's not where we're investing a ton of money, it's a critical part of how we measure success. And there's a misalignment there for sure in terms of, I honestly, I think this is all of us being jaded about end users a bit here. It's like, we know it's important, but we're not investing in it. But when we have a tool or a process that improves end user satisfaction and productivity, that's a huge contributor to the success of the tool. There's a lot going on in chat. Anything we should call out there, Jonathan? Just people being sassy.
We're in a safe place here. Let it all out. Yeah, I mean, really, you just that's the big call for me too in our poll. That it's attempts at self-service have been made, and the lack of adoption or successful adoption is really, I can see that being super discouraging. But I mean, as you point out, like it's the a lot of companies have seen this being a big priority, because if you like shifting left, right? Like if you can make a resolution available immediately, I mean, that's obviously everyone's goals. I mean, another way to think about this is self-service is really helping you, the best case scenario, right? You don't have to deal with the end user. But again, yeah, I think as a lot of people in the chat are pointing out, that tends to be pie in the sky in a lot of scenarios.
And if you're looking for a safe place to vent as an IT person, join Ninja's Discord.
Oh, Pete, I should have been all over that one. Well done. Oh man, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna go on to I'm gonna go over here to the maturity curve here for end users. Let's see if we can actually get it to go. The only 2 tools that were almost as immature as automation were end user self-service and digital employee experience, because I think it very much references what you guys are all talking about, right? We've either tried and gotten little to no return, or we haven't really dived into these tool sets here. Much less mature, a lot of people who are still figuring out how to make it work, a lot of people who haven't even started yet. And so I think it very much should resonate with what you've said today. So not a lot to add here. I can jump over next to Jonathan. Do you want to jump into the prediction?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, if we can pull, oh, here we go. Okay. Prediction GPT bot 3000 can't stop promoting itself. So yeah, so in 2024, the prediction from AI is that we're going to see a lot of AI-powered virtual assistants and chatbots that revolutionize how employees interact with technology. They're They're going to be deeply integrated into the workplace, offering personalized support, automated routine tasks, providing real-time assistance, all that stuff. Okay, sure. I think that's eventually going to happen. My prediction that is, once again, a little bit more pessimistic, and I think pessimistic is too strong. I just think that like all this new AI has so much potential, but before we see a lot of that realized in the ways that the hype train is kind of insisting, we're going to see some more like pragmatic. It's going to be augmenting rather than replacing a lot of stuff. Is my kind of like let's pump the brakes take. And I think because there's so much hype around this, we're going to start seeing, I think it's likely that we're going to see a little bit of backlash, particularly around cases where there are some companies and providers that jump on this a little too quickly. I mean, think about Tesla and like the self-driving thing, and news organizations, the press is going to be primed to like highlight failures of AI, and users too will, like, as you pointed out, getting users to adopt things is very tricky. And before you rush to apply something, I think there is very likely to be a point where they are primed to kind of jump on a failure of it and kind of stick to that. So I guess that's our prediction. Anything you want to add to that, Pete?
I'm laughing at Noah's live agent.
Exactly.
I know personally, I've seen AI chatbots. Sorry, my dog walked into the room here. I've seen AI chatbots and interact with them, and I've had some that were really good and some that were terrible. Yeah. And I know, like, when I go through that process and it's a really terrible outcome and I'm not getting what I want, I'm frustrated and I abandon, the sale or the support interaction. And so, yes, it's here. That doesn't mean we'll see immediate successful commercial adoption in a way that that delivers the value that we need to. And we did some research with like Gen Z around what they care about. And a big part of things that younger people in the workplace care about is, positive interaction and a frictionless experience. And this is taking a step back, right? Today, when you actually use these tools, it's taking a step back. Now, obviously, we need to learn and grow and mature these things, and they will and should hopefully get better and be a better experience. But there's risk in adopting these things immediately and seeing that friction and causing pain to your employees.
Yeah, I think that the challenge for IT leaders, kind of stepping back in big picture wise, is there's so much early hype, and no one really knows exactly how this stuff's going to be utilized. And there may be some knee jerk, like AI can replace this, and this sort of thing. And I think it's IT leaders' challenge over the coming year is going to be responding to executives who are pushing on this, but kind of pulling back and being able to suggest things. Here's a more pragmatic, practical way that we can start moving in these directions.
Actually, Michael Ogle just brought up, one concern is the potential for the bad guys to exploit them. I don't know if anyone saw this story. I don't know if it was a meme or if it was real, but there was an AI chatbot on a car dealership website that was like trained to respond with like, and that's a promise. And the person was like trained it to say like, I'll sell you an X car for $1, and that's a promise. And it's, at least theoretically legally binding. I don't know what the outcome of that was, but I do think it's a great doomsday story.
Yeah, I mean, hacking people's yeah, I mean, there's absolutely ways for abuse. I'm gonna drop in the chat. I have to go find it. Daniel Miesler, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but he's got some really cool forward-thinking kind of big picture stuff, and he commented on AI specifically around this, like around more kind of like further out, maybe not this year, but as there's more adoption in AI assistance, the potential of those things being hacked and what the ramifications are. So I'll share that in the chat if you want to have an interesting read.
Awesome. I think we're ready for our next poll because we're coming up on time here. So let's jump to the next one. I was really surprised how much tool consolidation came up in our response. It's something that, we at Ninja, not to be the marketing guy here, but we talk about replacing 2 to 3 tools on average when people adopt us. So we see it as a value that we deliver to our customers, but it was surprising to see how much it came up in our surveys. And so what I would love to hear is how important it is to you. Because, for many people, it's a nice to have, but not something they're actively pursuing. For some people, it is. They're trying to reduce risk and reduce attack surface. So yeah, we'd love to hear about how important it is to you in 24. And yeah, no, Microsoft isn't paying us to ask this question.
And you got through all of that, Pete, without saying single pane of glass. I'm impressed.
Centralized, single pane, one tool platform. That's the right answer, right? All right. It does look like these are slowing down, so I think we can end this poll and share the results here. And this, I don't think this surprises me at all, but we have a high number. Number one is we take advantage of tool consolidation when available. Number two, with almost 40%, is consolidation is a strategic priority. Last two, we either don't care, or this one's really interesting because we do hear it come up, is we're actively pursuing vendor diversification to reduce risk. That one's really interesting to me. I'm actually surprised it's as low as it is. But number one and two are clearly it's a strategic priority, or we take advantage when we can.
Yeah, yeah, you look at those priorities around improving efficiency. I mean, having fewer tools and not hiring more. We're looking for new tools potentially, but we don't want to hire more specialists, and so it kind of makes sense, right? It's interesting to see this compared to where security investments are going.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me jump into the data here a little bit. Really, after looking at the data, and you can see the numbers here are a lot lower, but still important. It is a complexity reduction, and complexity reduction really takes in more than just tool consolidation, but tool consolidation is definitely a part of it. But complexity reduction is a strong secondary strategic target. So no one's going out and just saying, I'm only going to consolidate tools. That's my only consideration here, but it is important. So you're looking here, top business challenge, number 6 was reducing technical complexity. So certainly right there in the middle of something we want to accomplish, but we're not going to give up other things for it. Metrics for success, number 5 was tool consolidation or tool cost reduction. So it is definitely a measure of success. It's not something you're looking for necessarily or actively pursuing, but it is something that we use to measure success. And then this last one from a different question, what is your current or desired approach going forward to adopting new IT software solutions? Only 15% really pulled it out as like, we are planning to actively consolidate. Like, regardless, I don't want to minimize this because I don't want to make anyone look foolish here, but it was sort of like, this is such a strategic priority that we're going to go out and maybe would give up a few things to consolidate our tool stack. I thought that was really interesting that there are 15% of people that it's that critical to, because of the efficiency gains, because of the security benefits, because of the training benefits, et cetera. So anything you wanted to add here before we jump on to the next one?
No, nothing smart to add to this one. I'm excited about the next one because it's a great question.
Awesome. So let's jump over to that one. What are your core challenges in 24? Can we go ahead? Yeah, we've tossed up that poll here. I recognize that we are limiting you to just a subset here, and your most important challenge may be outside this list, but we thought this was pretty broad. If there's anything we're missing here, if you have something really top priority, go ahead and type it in chat. I'd be interested to see the outliers outside of our list here.
And I love seeing this question and these answers because this also helps inform us. I mean, we like to host webinars where we share more about Ninja, but like this one, we also like to host webinars that answer the questions and challenges that you're actually dealing with too.
I'm going to actually jump in on one here that I'm really interested in. It's lack of skills. It's funny, the questions are actually in order of their importance according to the survey that we did, but I want to call out lack of skills, which is currently number 3, simply because I did another speech on like what millennials care about and how IT is changing for another venue. And there's a really interesting stat that the lack of correct skills in IT has an impact, a hundreds of $billion impact globally on businesses because of lack of cybersecurity skills, identity management skills, ability, even like something weird like being able to manage Macs effectively. Like there are fewer people that are as good with Mac or Linux endpoints, for example. And so the impact of the skill gap can be actually really, really impactful. So I'm interested that that's number 3 here. Do we want to stop and go ahead and toss out those?
Yeah, good call. I mean, this is really like the man. This makes a lot of sense, right? Like, oh boy, you want to invest in new capabilities. You're tied to still supporting legacy infrastructure, technology, and applications. So you want to do all that new stuff. That's great, but you still have to. You're still tied to all this old stuff.
And because you're investing in, or you've had those old tools and applications and processes, it's hard to go out and hire people with these new skill sets to move to new solutions, new processes, new technologies. So it's kind of a snake eating its own tail there. I think it's also interesting if we go down ineffective change management practices. What a boring statement, but what an important concept. If you're unable to manage change effectively, particularly out, the IT org making changes that impact the rest of the org, it can be really difficult to make strategic changes for an org.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to the top point too, right? Why you stuck with the legacy infrastructure, technology, and applications.
Yeah. So I'm just throwing this up. I don't know that I have a lot of additional comments to make here. I think our data from this webinar is more interesting because you're all here and we can talk about it. But I will say the 600 something company survey that we put out, the results approximate what we have here, except for that lack of skills coming out as particularly important. Yeah, I guess any other points worth calling out here? Let's see, Jonathan, you had mentioned that Chris brought up in an SMB, there's no way to know everything about everything. Smaller staff that are unable to specialize. Yeah, that's a really important point about skills gap. It's not necessarily that there isn't the willingness or capability. It's that everyone has to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's where getting back to, the MDR comment and outsourcing certain areas and being able to invest proactively in others. Man, it's really, we're coming up on time here. I really appreciate everybody coming in and joining this webinar and responding to these polls. You guys have a really tough job, but there's a lot of exciting things and a lot of big challenges. I love how this community gets together and how we're sharing all these things and sharing solutions. And I know that 1 hour is never enough. So as Pete mentioned, conversation can continue definitely in the Discord, but this is really great for us to think about what types of events and presentations we want to put together in the future.
So I got to do the marketing stuff at the end or the sales stuff at the end. So give me 2 more minutes. We also have a prize to give away. I'll do the worst job ever. This is our platform. You should go buy it. That's that's who affords us the opportunity to get on here and talk about trends. But I did want to call out one quick result from the survey as well. Of the 200 customers who actually took the survey, these are the core benefits they're receiving from NinjaOne. 95% said they improved patch compliance. 90 to 95% said they reduced ticket volumes, saved time on patching, reduced time spent on remote support, and save time on software development deployment. Sorry. So these are, we talked about most of these in our major challenges and trends for the year. And what our customers say, according to the survey, is that they receive benefits to these key areas by adopting NinjaOne. So with the marketing stuff done, we do have a winner for today's webinar for these awesome Meta Wayfarer sunglasses. Andrew, if you want to come on and announce that winner.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew. Thank you for joining today. I'm here to announce today's webinar winner, and the prize of the Ray-Bans are Joe Biddle. Thank you. Everyone give Joel a big congratulations in the chat. Joel, please keep an eye out in the following days for an email to claim your prize. But yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. I hope you share some footage that you record with those bad boys. That would be great. And hopefully you don't like start seeing aliens when you look at people or whatever.
People are going to drop off, but Jonathan, I don't know if you have 5 to 7 more minutes. If there are any questions, I'm happy to stay and answer any questions.
Yeah, absolutely too. I know this was more of a kind of broad strokes and sharing data and everything. But yeah, I mean, if anyone has any questions about these topics or anything regarding Ninja, we can answer those here in the next couple of minutes, and or hopefully you know where to find us. You get your AM. You can respond to our email that goes out with the recording and everything. You can hop into Discord. Oh, here's one from Michael. It's a great one. And this is going to be for you, Pete. What are the top 3 things Ninja is hoping to accomplish in 2024?
That is a big question, Michael. We've got at least one very big product announcement this year that we're super excited about. You'll see that end of Q2. Yeah, end of Q2. Really excited about that one. It's one that's already in beta, so I don't have to hide it. It's our mobile device management capability set, which is super exciting for Android and iOS. We have some great technology partnership launches that I can't speak of. If you're a Ninja customer, you may have some hints already. And I would say that this will probably be the most productive release year we've ever had. We have significantly increased our speed for delivery of new features and functionality by bringing on our new CTO last year. And so I think between those 3 things, and those are the 3 things I'm excited about. I can't speak for Ninja here specifically, but that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we got another question we should definitely get to from Aaron, but I'll just add quickly. I'm super excited about some additional community efforts we're going to be making. And we're also going to be improving. We've heard a lot around, we've got our documentation. It's great. We've got training videos, but we can kind of step it up in that area too. And so there's going to be some training efforts that are coming out that's going to make it even easier for techs and admins to jump in and learn Ninja quickly and to level up in some certain skills. So we're definitely excited about that.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. Cooper is sacked in the background on the couch there. He is a doodle, right?
Yeah, my guest host Cooper is a border collie poodle mix.
Border collies are supposed to be like running around all day, right? Maybe he's already done that.
He's lazy.
Okay, from Aaron, do you want to hit that question?
Which one? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. There's one from Aaron. Thoughts on Winget?
Yes. We will have an announcement about that in the not terribly distant future, not terribly immediate future, unfortunately. But we are not to put my foot in my mouth here, but we are always investing in our patching capabilities. I recognize that there have been some challenges with that lately, but one of those things would be dramatically expanding our third-party patching catalog in the mid to this year. I'll say this year. That's about the best I can do.
Yeah, have to be a tease, unfortunately. Okay, so James, you mentioned swag, and Andrew gave you a link to a swag store, but we can't make all of you guys pay for stuff, especially when you've stayed after for the webinar. So James, why don't I follow up and shoot you a gift card to that swag store, and I'll do that for a few other folks too.
Awesome.
I'm gonna take a screenshot of the comments right now. I'm gonna send it to like everybody who's still in here.
There was another question about MDM for.
Oh man, there's a lot.
There was another question about MDM for Windows. The immediate term plan is Android and iOS. Again, you'll have those this year. As requests come in and as our customers help us prioritize our roadmap, Windows may happen in the future. Mac, you can expect before Windows, though.
All right. Looks like community team's gonna be busy sending out some swag. That's great. One more question about MDM, Pete, around Apple from Alex.
Yeah, will linking multiple Apple business accounts be on the roadmap? The answer is yes, but not at launch, unfortunately. Yeah, not at launch. Sorry, I'm not managing the MDM launch, but not at launch, but it is on the roadmap.
Pros and cons versus Intune, and then we probably gotta jump here.
In general, or for MDM? So Intune, my biggest call outs are threefold. One, if you're not paying for the extra Intune suite, integrated remote access is a huge benefit. The one-to-one remote management, so remote CLI, file browser, task manager, all that stuff is a huge benefit. But it's really all encapsulated in the idea of Ninja manages synchronously and Intune manages asynchronously. So when you run a script with Intune or deploy an application or whatever, it can take 5 minutes, it can take an hour, it can take 8 hours. It all depends on what the action is. When you're trying to take action at scale with Ninja, things happen within 60 seconds, which makes your life as a technician a lot easier. You can really interact with the device like you're on it. So that's a big difference between Ninja and Intune.
Nice. Okay, I lied. One more because it's a good answer. And I love those. Daniel's asking about Raspberry Pi support.
That should be coming out very soon as well. Linux, ARM broadly, Raspberry Pi specifically is already well under development, and I know my team's working on launch notes for it. So,
yeah, I think we mentioned some promos around Pi Day. So I don't know. We'll see if that works.
That'd be cool.
Awesome. Okay, I guess we probably need to run. But any other comments here? If there's any questions we didn't get to, feel free to reply to the email that's going to go out. Also, we'll check the chat because I got to do that anyway to send out some swag. And if there's questions we can answer that we didn't get to here, we'll definitely do that. But thank you everybody for jumping in and joining us. It's going to be a good year, I think. It's going to be an interesting one for sure, but I think in a lot of ways it's going to be great. Pete, always fun to do these with you, man.
What was it? Crostronomus. Zoltar out. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jonathan.
See you, everybody.